All right, good evening, everyone. We just started the stream and we're waiting for you to join us. So we're happy na you're here with us and we're also happy na you will be joining the stream tonight. Kung ikaw ay walang ginagawa at kung ikaw ay nakatambay, nag-chill and you're waiting for something to happen, maybe this is the thing that you are waiting for. Dito sa Grow Deep Podcast, what we're trying to do is to really join you dun sa mga ginagawa mo lately. And tonight, very exciting yung pag-uusapan natin. And I think very relevant din yung pag-uusapan natin dahil ito ay something na madalas nararanasan ng maraming tao nowadays. And if you are here with us, no, go ahead and just sit back and find your cozy spot. And, samahan nyo lang kami sa pag-uusap natin, sa kwentuhan natin ngayong gabi. Siyempre, you're listening to the Grow Deep Podcast. And kasama niyo na naman ako si Matthew. And I'm so happy tonight dahil meron akong mga makakasama na tao na makikipag-usap sa akin tungkol dun sa topic natin today. I'm excited kasi I've always wanted to do this before. I've always wanted to have other people join me in the podcast. And I'm excited dahil hindi lang sila basta people. They are people who are close to me. They are people who I really love and respect and they've been good friends. Hindi lang dahil marami kaming common interests, pero talagang nafe-feel ko na yung respeto from them, yung acceptance from them, and yung openness din nila as individuals. So allow me to introduce them. They'll be on the screen in a short while. The first one is a really, really good friend of mine. She's a very mature person. No? I would describe her as a mature person. And recent lang kami nag-meet, pero nung nag-meet kami, instant click to kasi ang dami-dami pala naming things in common. And I never realized that someone actually lived in a very close circle sa akin. Dami naming common friends, dami naming common nakakilala, pati interest, no? Nakakatuwa din yung mga interest niya, mga cartoons dati, Backstreet Boys, mga ganyan. And walang iba yan, syempre, kundi si Jana. Ayan. So Jana, we want to see you, okay? And another one naman is a brother of mine. Hey Jana, what's up?
Hey.
Welcome to the podcast. Introduce ko lang yung isa pa nating kasama. The other one na we're having today, no, tonight in the podcast is a very, very good brother of mine. We belong in the same organization sa CBAP. And matagal ko na siyang kilala. Nakita ko siya nung bata pa siya and I'm so happy that God has worked in his life enough para mag-mature. And nung nakita ko siya ulit dahil pumunta kami sa Iloilo para tumulong sa mga tao doon, nakita ko kung gaano ka-amazing yung ginawa na ni Lord sa buhay niya. And I'm happy that he is here with us dito sa podcast. Yun ay si MM. What's up, MM?
Hello! Hello po.
Yun, no? Kamusta kayo, guys? Kamusta?
Ox.
How did you spend today ba?
Yung holiday nga pala ngayon.
Yeah,
holiday. It's National Heroes Day. Given the National Heroes Day, fast talk lang, sino ang hero nyo sa life? Magbigay nga kayo ng isang hero sa buhay nyo.
Nanay ko.
Nanay mo. Bilis naman. Bakit si Mami?
Talaga. Maraming siya nagagawa na hindi ko ma-imagine kung paano nagagawa.
Right. Ikaw?
Sa akin, parents ko din po eh. Mostly. Siyempre, hindi lang nanay, pero si dad saka si mom. Kasi in terms of living a life na role model worthy, sila talaga yun para sa akin.
Given that, alam nyo ba, curiously, at hindi ito invento, ang parents ko din ang role models ko. There was a time in my life na I never understood how they could be heroes to me. Pero as time went by, alam mo yon, na-realize ko na, shucks, my parents are really, really, really good people. So, as time passed by, na-realize ko na napaka-blessed ko bilang isang anak. And kaya, alam mo yun, talagang parents talaga. So, shout out sa lahat ng tao na parents din ang heroes nyo sa buhay. At kung kayo naman ay hindi naman parents ang hero nyo, we'd like to know kung sino bang hero nyo sa buhay. Feel free to comment on the stream. Sino ba ang bayani mo? Sino ba nagsisilbing hero or inspiration mo sa life? Dahil kailangan natin ng inspiration. Tama ba, guys?
Oo naman.
Kailangan motivate araw-araw.
Yeah, it will keep you going.
Tama.
Nakadagdag.
Correct. Especially lalo na dun sa pag-uusapan natin tonight, di ba? Which
Mhm.
is about sadness.
Sadness.
Pagka malungkot ka, kailangan mo ng inspiration eh. Di ba?
Oo naman. Kahit hindi ka malungkot.
Ay, tama.
Bagay.
Tama yun.
Kahit masaya ka, masaya
Oo,
na
kahit
merong dagdag saya.
Correct,
Mhm.
correct. Kailangan mo yun. So, curious lang ako, bakit ba, sino mang kausap natin dito sa episode natin tungkol sa sadness?
Well, para sa mga nakakaramdam ng lungkot dyan ngayon, o kaya yung mga go through din ng lungkot, gustong journey with them. So, sila yung mga kausap natin ngayon.
Tama. Sino
Pwedeng
pa, M?
wala nga.
Para sa
Ayun,
akin, yung
sige.
mga kausap natin, yung mga nagmahal, nasaktan, nagpariban, o kaya naman yung mga feeling lost. Kasi with everything going on sa bansa natin ngayon, alam naman natin, sa pandemic, nakaka-trigger talaga siya ng lahat ng sad thoughts.
Right,
Yes.
right. So guys, no, if you're a person who's ever been sad before, if you're a person na nasaktan na before, shout out sa lahat ng nasaktan, no?
May
Alam ko
atake.
marami.
Ba't may atake?
Okay. Pero shout out din sa mga tao na nawalan, 'di ba? Maraming mga tao na naka-experience ng loss sa buhay. Not necessarily losing someone, but maybe losing something. Maybe something that you were really looking forward to, something that you really wanted to have, and maybe an opportunity na nawala sa'yo. This episode is for you. And if you ever feel na you're stuck or you're lost in life, kung meron kang mga desisyon na sa tingin mo ay magandang ginawa mo pero hindi mo nagawa, then this episode is for you. Tanong ko lang, no, Jana and MM, bakit ba importante na pag-usapan natin yung sadness? Bakit importante na palawakin or mas palalimin pa natin or mag-grow tayo deeper in understanding when it comes to sadness?
Minsan kasi yung mga tao, iniisip nila ang dapat lang i-share mga masasaya or yung mga magagandang bagay. Nakakalimutan natin na sadness is also an emotion, a real emotion, and it affects us. Lahat ng tao nag-go through ng sadness, and mas maganda na magkaroon tayo ng healthy conversation about it para alam din natin how to respond to ourselves din kung tayo nakaka-experience or yung other friends natin nakaka-experience. Ganun.
Tama yun. Ikaw, may add ka?
Di ba parang in the same way po na in order for us to overcome obstacles or challenges, you have to know how you have to be fully equipped sa kung paano may bibit yung challenge na yon. Or for example, pag sa mga tao naglalaro ng games, para mabit mo yung boss, kailangan makita yung weakness niya, kailangan makita yung openings na pwedeng makita niya. And the same way, paano matatalo yung sadness kung wala ka namang alam kung paano ba i-assess yun?
Tama ka doon. No? Actually, no, there were times in my past na I really felt stuck when I was sad. And I think maraming mga taong ganun. So, guys, if ever, no, if you feel sad, no, if you've ever felt sad, we want to know what usually makes you sad. What usually causes sadness in you, no? And we really want to get to know kayo na nanonood and nakikinig sa amin ngayon. And we'd be happy to hear your thoughts and maybe read about what you think dun sa pag-uusapan natin tungkol sa sadness. Tama si Jana at si MM kasi alam mo yon, sadness is really something that happens to all of us, and if we don't know how to think about sadness, we might get stuck in sadness for a long time. And medyo malungkot yun, no, guys, pag stuck ka na sa sadness. Kaya yan ang pag-uusapan natin. So para sa inyo, where do we see sadness today? Sa tingin nyo?
Well, for me, you just look at your social media pages and you can see a lot. Especially now we're going through pandemic, ang daming nawalan ng trabaho. Of course, meron tayong mga friends or siguro tayo mismo, we experience a loss of a loved one. Di ba yun, mga news na naririnig natin sa government natin, sometimes it also makes us sad of the situation that we're in right now. So,
right.
Yun.
Sa akin siguro personal experiences, personal relations with people kasi I have a friend actually batchmate na nasa aviation industry, and we've been talking ganyan nga na with the pandemic happening, sobrang ayun nga, as Ate Jana said, loss of work, yung mga career na magte-take off pa lang sana
Right.
biglang na udlot dahil nga nagkaroon ng layoffs, ganyan. And dito na sa province, madaming mga tao na yung day-to-day lang yung nila, earnings nila. Yung salary nila day-to-day lang, hindi kagaya ng iba na monthly. Sila, if they don't work, they don't get paid. And if they don't get paid, wala silang may lalagay sa table,
Totoo.
family nila. So, yun yung mga real life stories from real people experiencing the hardships ng pandemic na to. Sobrang saddening for me.
Correct. At saka minsan, no, it's just the reality of yourself. Tama ba? Minsan, no, pagka you're just living your day, di ba? Nangyari na ba sa inyo yun? Yung parang naliligo ka lang, kumakain ka lang,
Bigla ka
meron ka lang
nalungkot.
ginagawang activity, bigla na lang parang may looming sadness, merong parang bigla ka na lang nalungkot. I've experienced that a lot of times before. And sadness is not just around us. Sadness is also in us. And it's good to know ano ba yung mga bagay na nagpapalungkot sa atin usually. And kayo guys, I'm interested. What usually makes you sad? Jana, ikaw, what makes you sad?
Ako recently, yun nga, the government situation in our country. There are times in my quiet time talaga na iiyak na lang ako kay God. Kasi wala naman akong magawa eh. Pero, yun, parang, ano bang pwede mong gawin? Bakit ganito yung nangyayari? Tapos you tend to compare our situation dun sa situation ng ibang mga bansa. So, mas nalulungkot pa ako. Pero dahil mahal natin yung Pilipinas, dito pa rin tayo at ipanalangin natin sila. Pero aside from the government situation, yun nga, may mga friends din ako na nawalan din either ng work or ng loved one. Ang lungkot kasi limiting yung pag-journey mo with them dahil nga naka-quarantine pa rin tayo. Hindi mo sila mapuntahan or mayakap. Hindi mo sila, hindi ka maka-grieve with them ng yung usual na alam natin. Kasi nga, tayo, puro chat o kaya video call. Sobrang nakakapanglumo na nandito lang tayo, wala tayong magawa. Parang feeling mo, may gusto kang gawin pero hindi mo magawa. So, yun.
Correct. Ikaw?
Sa akin, mga realizations po. More of realizations na kung alam ko lang na mas stuck ako sa bahay, sana I extended this grace more. I should have done this more kung alam ko lang na mapipigilan pala. For example, sa ministry, if for example, alam mo na the discipleship nyo na pala yun na magkakasama, maybe mas ganyan, mas nag-extend ka ng grace, mas naging kind ka, or mas cherish mo yung time that you had na ngayon wala na kasi iba na talaga yung normal ngayon.
Correct. Tama. Ako naman, no, what usually makes me sad is weird. Parang feeling ko weird lang kasi ngayon, ewan ko, now that I'm older, no, nung bata ako, mga napapalungkot sa akin, puro related sa mga love story di ba?
Yan.
Ganyan Pero now that I'm older, alam ko nakaka-relate kayo, huwag kayo magpanggap.
Yan. Love.
Ngayon na mas matanda na ako, alam mo, na-realize ko lang na minsan yung mga palabas na merong mga talagang nakakalungkot na bagay. No? For example, when two people finally need to separate, the loss of a loved one, yung powerlessness ng isang character sa movie o sa isang anime show. Madalas ako nanonood ng anime.
Yun.
Nakakalungkot yun para sa akin. And meron nag-comment dun sa stream natin, sabi ni Justin Rontos Gonzaga, nalulungkot daw siya pag pinaguhugas siya ng plato.
Ay!
Lalo na pag hindi ka kumain.
Maiintindihan ko yun kung for example, nagpa-fiesta sa bahay nila, na-invite kapitbahay. Yun, gets ko yun.
Shout out din pala kay Ace Pendon kasi sabi niya, paano yan? Sabi niya, nabanggit na yung sadness and love. Ayan. At sa tingin ko, marami talagang nakaka-relate dun sa mga sadness when it comes to love. Di ba? And I think, no guys, di ba, nowadays, Jana, parang malalim yun. Nowadays, no, a lot of people are also sad because I think, no, many people feel alone. Di ba? Parang they feel like no one can relate to them. Doon sa rise ng individualism at saka nung pagiging private ng buhay natin, yung control natin sa privacy, at saka yung control din natin sa kung ano nakikita ng tao, yung need to belong is really greater. Kasi parang ang dami-dami nating interest pero hindi lahat ng tao kapareho natin ng interest. Hindi lahat ng friends natin kapareho natin ng interest. So there are a lot of people who are sad. And when we sad, we usually cope. May ginagawa tayong paraan para solusyonan yung yung sadness natin, no? For example, ako, pagka malungkot ako, I either go out to run or bike, or I play console games like for a whole day or a whole night. Isa yan sa mga ginagawa kong coping mechanism. Ganyan yung ginagawa ko. Ganun ka rin ba, Em?
Sa akin, hindi po console games, pero more of keyboard and mouse games.
Right.
Also, minsan aside doon sa paglalaro, I like to take long drives. Kahit short drives lang to the beach or just to look at the view. Para lang mawala yung isip ko sa things that make me sad. Para lang maging busy.
Correct. Jana, ikaw, paano ka mag-cope?
I eat or I sleep.
Yan tayo eh. We eat.
Or I sleep. Or kapag sobrang sad, yung manonood ako ng something happy, yung comedy.
Tapos may ice cream.
Matuwa ako.
Correct.
Ice cream. Yeah.
Yan.
Ice cream never fails.
Gusto ko malaman, guys, kasi kung paano naman nagko-cope yung mga listeners natin. So guys, we wanna know, no, how do you cope when you're sad? Si Jana kumakain, natutulog. Si MM nagda-drive, no? Gusto ko talaga yung kay Jana kumakain, natutulog.
Hey.
Gusto ko talaga yun. Tapos ako naman, no, ako nagko-console games, no? O kaya minsan nakikinig din ako ng music, ganyan. Nilalabasan ko talaga. Okay lang 'yon. Okay lang naman kung hindi ka gaming. Pero ganito 'yan, no?
Na lang.
No matter how you cope, it's about what works for you, 'di ba? Yung iba-iba nating coping mechanism, hindi yan, maaaring it will not work. For example, si Jana, di naman siya naglalaro. So what my coping mechanism will not work for her. Mas gusto niyang matulog, di ba? Yung iba ayaw matulog. May mga kilala ako na ang coping mechanism nila with sadness is to really excel, di ba? Yung pag-excel, may mga ganun pare.
Pwede.
Di ba? They're very driven in their work.
Nilalabas lahat.
Oo, nilalabas nila doon. Kaya ang coping with sadness is something that we really need to be aware of. Kasi pagka hindi ka aware sa coping mo, baka hindi ka rin aware na it's something that you do pala for sadness. Akala mo gusto mo lang lumabas, akala mo gusto mo lang mag-drive, gusto mo lang mag-bike, gusto mo lang matulog. Pero yun pala, kaya mo gustong gawin yung mga bagay na yun kasi may sadness ka inside. So it's one way for us to identify, no? Curious lang ako, meron ba kayong unforgettable sad moment?
Here we go.
Meron ba? Curious lang ako,
Caption
no?
pa lang bago silang manood, ang caption sa akin, nagmahal, nasaktan, nagpalawan.
Ayun.
Siyempre, I experienced a failed relationship. So, ang nakatulong sa akin nung time na yun is nagpalawan ako. Although ngayon, tingin ko limited tayo mag-travel. Pero talaga nung heartbroken ako, gusto kong mawala sa mundo, no? Ayokong makakita ng tao. Yung gusto kong maglaho. So, nagpunta akong Palawan. Pero kahit nagpunta akong Palawan, yung kagaya ng sinasabi ni Matt kanina, kahit naliligo ka lang, kumakain, nasa tricycle ako, bigla akong maiiyak. Naglalakad lang ako sa sidewalk, bigla akong maiiyak.
Yan nagagawa ng pagmamahal dyan.
So, sadness is real. O kaya, nung time na yun, sinabi ko kanina, one of my kaya, kung hahalugin yung pictures, sobrang payat ka yun.
Grabe yun. Yun talaga yung proof. The Lord is good.
Oo. Parang paggabi, sobrang kahit ang dami ko ng taong na-meet for the day kasi I kept myself busy para hindi ko naiisip. Pero at the end of the day, it's real. Iiyak ako bigla kasi naalala kong malungkot nga pala kung may pinagdadaanan ako.
Right.
So, yun. Sometimes, even with a group of people, I still feel alone.
Correct.
Yung ganun.
True.
Yeah. Thank you, Jana, for sharing that, no? Alam ko medyo mahirap ata i-share.
Oo, malalim yun, malalim.
Pero siguro, shout out muna kay...
Sige.
Reality ba yun, Jana? Thank you for being honest.
Shout out sa mga taong tumulong sa akin during those times.
Yan.
Kasi,
nalo kayo.
Yung mga tumanggap sa akin at my lowest point. Salamat sa inyo, guys.
Tama. Pero alam mo, shout out sa mga nag-comment, no, kung paano sila nagko-cope. Sabi ni Yuna, she takes long walks daw. Sino ba mahilig maglakad dito? Welcome, guys. Gusto ko yung, pero alam mo, nakaka-relax
Ako,
talaga yun.
Ah.
Diba? Sabi naman ni Brian Fernandez, ako nagbabike tas kumakain ng favorite food sa labas. Ay, maganda yan. Yung tipong nag-workout
Nice.
ka, tapos
Tapos kumain
after mo
ka.
mag-workout, kakain ka. Yan talaga. Tapos, meron dito si
balance
Jonah.
yan eh.
Si Jonah Katrina, sabi ni Jonah, siya daw Microsoft Word. Wow.
Hindi,
Wow.
baka nagta-type. Nagta-type siya ng...
Nagta-type.
Nagta-type siya ng novela para sa minamahal.
Oo, ganyan. Doon niya nilalabas, no?
Oo.
Dear Microsoft Word. Ganyan.
Hindi na kita mahal.
Yeah, ako nag-journal ako. Ang dami ko palang sinulat ng time na yun.
Yes.
Well,
Tama yan. Sabi ni Ace Pendon, go to the mall and coffee shop and people watch. Meron palang ganun, no? People watching.
Ay,
people what?
People watching, guys. Eh, yung tipong uupo ka lang, tapos titignan mo lang yung mga tao. Very malalim talaga to si Ace, no?
Yeah, with
Ace,
a
you're
cup
so
of
deep.
coffee.
Yes, ganyan.
Yeah. Hi,
Speaking of coffee, sabi ni Justin Rontos, nagkakape daw siya with his pastor. Wow naman. Oo. At sino nang lilibre, Justin? Yung pastor mo o ikaw?
Yan ang magandang tanong.
Yeah, di ba?
Magandang tanong.
Pero shout out din kay Phil John. Kasi sabi ni Phil John, nanonood daw siya ng K-drama. Ganyan, mga K-drama, ganyan.
Hi, Phil.
Tapos si
I
David Arthur naman, sabi niya, bilang isang songer daw, singing sad songs para daw nalalabas.
Totoo yan. Isa pa yan.
Gusto ko yan.
Oo nga, nakalimutan ko
lang
yan
sabihin
Ano?
Isa sa mga mentors ko noon, heartbroken ako, umiwas ako sa love songs kasi mas nafe-feel yung sadness ko. Pero kung nakaka-help naman sa kanya, pero yun nung time na yun, hindi nakaka-help sa akin. So umiwas ako sa sad love songs.
Meron dito sabi ni RJ, meron daw siyang kilala na kapag malungkot, nakikipagkwentuhan sa crush hanggang magpuyat. Ay, alam na.
Rin akong ganun.
Parang kilala ko rin yan.
Sino kaya yun?
Parang kilala ko rin yun.
What's up, no? So, alam mo, no, sobrang napakagaling ng mga listeners natin ngayon kasi talagang nag-share sila. Maraming salamat sa inyo, guys. Yung iba, no, sabi ni Otep Villanueva, he tries to change his mind na daw dahil ayaw niya nang maging emotional dati. Pag sad daw siya, nagiging emotional siya. Pero ngayon, he's trying to change his mind. And which is a good thing, right? Which is a good thing.
True.
Pero alam nyo, ang isa pang healthy na malaman, paano ba tayo naapektuhan talaga ng sadness? Kasi, and this is good to know. Kasi, parang warning signs, kumbaga. Parang, ito na nangyayari sa'yo. Ito na nangyayari sa'yo. And if you know these things, you will be able to parang identify, you will become aware kung nangyayari to sa'yo. And this is something, guys, no, para dun sa mga nakikinig sa amin, maybe you could remember these things. And this is how sadness affects our lives. And we really want to share this with you. Si Jana yung nag-share nung una.
Yeah, one of the things at kung paano tayo na-affect ng sadness, we think crazy things or crazy thoughts.
True.
Especially, lalo na kung thinker ka, thinker ka katulad ko. Nako, nung time na sad ako, when I was in one of the lowest, kung ano-ano naisip ko, like, naisip ko kung worthless ba akong tao, wala na ba akong value, kasi you felt rejected, or naisip mo to take revenge, how to get even. Sometimes you also think, anong naiisip ng ibang tao tungkol sa'yo. Kumbaga, crazy things na hindi naman dapat natin naiisip yun. Pero, dapat hindi naman natin isasantabi yung mga nafe-feel natin because sadness is real. We need to acknowledge what we're feeling at the moment, but we shouldn't dwell on it. Okay lang na mag-isip pero one thought can lead to other. Kailangan i-discipline natin yung utak natin na kapag na baka sumabog na yung utak natin kakaisip. Kaya talagang sadness can make you go crazy.
Tama yun. Tama yun.
We need to discipline our minds din. There's power in your thoughts.
Correct. And it's good to be aware of how you think, especially when you're sad, no? Kasi isa sa mga bagay na dapat pina-practice natin is sober-mindedness. And pag sinabing sober-mindedness, contrast yan so drunken-mindedness. Tama ba yun, guys? Di ba pag drunk ka, di ba yung drunk texting daw, mga ganyan, drunk calling, mga ganyan. This is not controlled by your rationality, but it's controlled by your your emotion or the alcohol, sabi nga nila. So you need to practice sober-mindedness, especially when you're sad. Ang isa
Yes.
pa na siguro how does sadness affect our lives is number 2, we do silly things, di ba?
True.
Things na you never thought you would really do. No, so for example, meron nag-share dito, si Arnaldo, sabi niya, pag sad daw siya, nagda-drive siya aimlessly and sometimes nasa room lang siya na naka-aircon at nakikinig sa instrumental to process his thoughts, no? Driving aimlessly, if you think
Hirap.
about it, 'di ba? Parang sinong gagawa nun? Pero sa totoo lang, sad people do that. May
Yeah,
kilala
true.
ako, naglakad siya galing ng University Belt pauwi hanggang SM North. Nilakad lang niya. Alam mo yun?
Teka
Tas
na,
talagang-
nakaka-relate ako dyan sa lakad na yan.
Di ba no? Yung kanina may nag-share, naglalakad daw siya ng malayo. So baka nangyayari yun sa inyo, guys. And this is really something na this is something that really happens, no? We do silly things. And it's a warning sign, di ba? It's a warning sign na you are experiencing something out of the ordinary. You're experiencing something that you've never experienced before, or something really affecting you. Kasi pag gagawa ka ng mga bagay na hindi mo normal na nagagawa. Usually, I remember a time I was just sitting like in UP. I was just sitting and waiting for the sun to set because I was sad, no? Alam mo sa UP, dun ka talaga perfect malungkot dun eh.
Oo nga.
Saya. So,
Malungkot ka sa UP.
Sunset talaga.
upo ka lang doon, tapos
Okay. Cue mo.
Correct.
Sunset.
Yun eh. Yun yung So, sign yun. Biruin mo, ang dami-dami mong pwedeng gawin, pero kailangan mong i-process yung emotion mo. Kaya you do silly things. And maybe, guys, you have done something silly before or you know someone who has done something silly before. Wag niyo silang i-name drop, pero maybe you could comment.
wag naman.
Ano ba yung mga
Walang
alam
naglagan,
nyo
guys.
na silly things na nagagawa ng tao pag sad sila? Yan ang isa pang warning sign or how sadness affect us. Yung pangatlo, isi-share sa atin ni MM.
Aside from thinking crazy things and, doing silly things, kagaya ng drunk texting, drunk calling, yung third sign or yung dapat ingatan mo is when you desire to do the wrong things. Now, when we say desiring to do the wrong things, usually we think, hindi, madali lang yun, ganyan. Pero yun yung isa sa mga misconception. Pag sad ka talaga, sometimes parang nawawalan ka na ng yung rationale sa utak mo na parang suddenly, black and white doesn't look black and white anymore. Parang everything's in the gray. Parang everything is okay lang. Mas malapit ka pa sa wrong decision sa buhay mo kesa in the past few years ng buhay mo na hindi ka malungkot. Yun yung mga tipong dapat ingatan talaga eh. Kasi some wrong decisions have minor consequences but some have long-lasting consequences na dapat talaga ingatan.
Tama. Ay, alam mo, sobrang ganda ng sinabi mo. Kasi sometimes, we allow ourselves the space to be sad. Pero in our sadness, we have to recognize and we really have to be careful, 'di ba? Kasi when we're sad, sometimes our desires go out of whack, 'di ba? Pagka kunyari minsan brutal ka na nga eh. Minsan masama na yung dinidesire mo eh. So you have to be aware of that. That's also a warning sign. It's how sadness affects you. It changes your normal desires and it sometimes leads your desires into things that are really not good for you. And pero gaya ng sinabi ni Jana kanina, na-share ni Jana kanina, there were people in her life na tumulong sa kanya doon sa time na malungkot siya. And isa yan sa mga pwede rin nating pag-usapan, yung mga advice pagdating sa kalungkutan. So sa mga listeners natin, guys, we wanna know what is one good advice na you've received in times that you were sad, no? Mag-comment kayo ng isang bagay na narinig sa inyo, sinabi sa inyo, nabasa nyo, and it really hit you hard during that sad time. It was a good advice that you received, you saw, ganyan. We want to know in the comment section habang kami ay mag-share din ng mga good advices namin. So Jana and MM, ano ba yung mga advice na na-receive natin nung time na malungkot tayo? And maybe we can share that dito rin sa episode natin na to.
Ako, ang pinaka-naalala kong share sa akin ni Kuya. Shout out to my Kuya.
Yes.
Kasi nga nung time na pagod na ako, parang feeling ko ayoko nang umiyak. Nakakapagod umiyak, ayoko nang gumawa ng kahit ano, pero ang dami ko pa rin ginagawa. Sabi niya, Jana, one day at a time. So, live one day at a time. Isipin nyo, bukas, sige, nga yung thinking ko parang process. Yung bukas, yung next week, ano na mangyayari? Hanggang pa ito katagal? Lord, ayoko na, pagod na ako ganun. So, one day at a time.
Right. That's really good advice. At ako rin, no, parang gusto ko rin yung advice na yun, one day at a time. Kasi sometimes, gaya ng sinabi ni Jana, when we're sad, we really look forward. As in like,
sobrang
the question,
layo.
alam mo yun, para yung question ng what if, it becomes the largest question in your mind. Like,
True.
instead of asking what now, we always ask what if, or
always looking back.
we become obsessed with what's next, no? Yung mga ganyan. And
Na-anxious
sometimes,
ka.
yes, you're becoming anxious. Yung
Sobrang
kinakabahan
anxious
ka talaga. And yun nga, halo-halo na yun. Self-doubt,
self-pity.
worrying, self-pity. Tama ka doon, MM.
Yeah.
Yan yung nangyayari. So that's really good advice. Ikaw, M, anong advice ang natanggap mo?
Sa akin po was when I was in Phoebias pa. There was one time talagang dahil sobrang sad ko, affected lahat. Grades ko, affected yung way ko ng pakitungo sa lahat ng mga tao. I just wanted to mope. Gusto ko lang makulong sa kwarto, ganyan. Pero hindi pwede kasi setup, madami kayo sa isang room. Pero the best advice that a friend gave me was, sabi niya, okay lang maging sad. Walang masama maging sad. There's nothing wrong with feeling the sadness or letting it dwell in you. Pero, sabi niya, but don't let your sadness hinder you from worshiping God in the you would or in the way that you were ought. Yung design ni Lord para sa buhay mo, hindi pwedeng dahil lang sobrang lungkot mo, parang sisirain mo na lahat yun or hindi mo gagalangan yung original design niya para sa buhay mo. So if you're really sad, it's okay to be sad, pero don't let it hinder you from worshiping God.
That's really good advice. And alam mo, no, I think that's important kasi sometimes we really forget that God is there. 'Di ba? Our sadness parang ano yan parang lens, no? Parang lens. Kami ni Emma may salamin kami. Kami ni
Yes.
para siyang lens that really warps your view of the present and warps your view of God. And sometimes it makes you think na walang Diyos. It makes you think na God doesn't care. Pero alam mo, ang ganda rin ng mga comment ng mga listeners natin. Sabi ni Tiffany, iyak mo lang, labas mo lang. Yan daw yung advice na natanggap niya.
Grabe yan.
That's really good advice, di ba?
True.
Madalas kasi na pag umiiyak tayo, no, ewan ko nung mga bata tayo, pag malungkot tayo, sinasabi sa atin, huwag ka na umiyak, okay na yun. Parang ganyan, no? Pero yung advice yung advice ni Tiffany gives you the space of really, dealing with your emotions. If you feel like crying, then you could cry. Okay yun. Tapos, isa pa sinabi ni Ace, no, you are worthy of love. You are valuable. We are here for you. Tara, kape tayo, libre ko. Yung pinakamaganda doon, yung libre.
Libre ko.
Parang gusto ko i-add si Kuya Ace. Hello po. Kuya Ace, message niyo po ako pagkatapos.
Ace, parang gusto ko malungkot. Tapos libre mo kami tatlo.
True.
Pero right, di ba? I think yung advice na natanggap ni Ace is a good reminder for all of us that we are worthy of love. Kasi sometimes when we're sad, yun nga, sabi ni MM kanina, we self-pity and we lose sight of our own value. And we begin to see something that's really isn't there. So ang ganda nung advice na sinabi ni Ace dito sa ating comment section. Sabi naman ni Arnaldo, sabi niya, process what you feel. It's good to know why you are sad and identify the factors that contribute to your sadness. No solution, but simply acknowledge what you feel. It will come to pass. Right, di ba? Jana, anong masasabi mo doon sa ganung advice?
Sobrang real. Isa rin yan sa mga nasabi sa akin ng isang mga mentors ko. Whenever you feel sad, you acknowledge. Hindi mo siya isasantabi. Kasi totoong nararamdaman mo at the moment eh. So, i-identify mo bakit ka malungkot. So, para nagiging aware ka din in the future kung anong pwedeng makahelp sa'yo. Pero yun nga, okay lang na umiyak, okay lang na mag-i-isolate mo muna sarili mo for a while.
Right.
Yun, kung ano makaka-help, pero acknowledge what you're feeling.
Tama ka doon. Parang yung sinabi ni Phil John, sabi ni Phil John, when we face sadness, dapat ginigrieve natin. Long walks or being alone is part of grieving.
Yeah.
doon normally, kinakausap mo yung sarili mo. And na-pinpoint dito ni Phil John, yung isang importante na pwede nating gawin pagka malungkot tayo. And it's just, talking to yourself. Merong ganyang discipline yung parang you distance yourself from yourself. Labo nun. Medyo malabo yung pagkakasabi ko. Pero it really happens, di ba? You distance yourself from your present situation and then you talk to yourself, di ba? I-deal mo yung sarili mo. Acknowledge what you feel. Tell yourself ano ba talagang nararamdaman mo. Kasi sometimes, sadness is only something na surface. Akala mo sad ka lang. Pero meron siyang mga kabit na nangyayari rin sa buhay mo. So it's really good. That's really good advice from Phil John Kalamba. Maraming salamat, bro. Maraming salamat.
Tapos if I may add lang, Kuya Matt, minsan ang problem din is kagaya ng sinabi natin dyan, you have to acknowledge your sadness. Ang minsan kasi ginagawa natin bilang mga tao, parang in denial pa tayo. Parang yung 5 stages of grief, di ba kailangan yun yung unang sign na, hala, okay, sige, ayaw mo pang tanggapin yung reality ng buhay. Kung sad ka naman talaga, ano magagawa mo kung in denial ka pa? Paano ka makaka-move on? Paano ka makaka-progress kung hindi mo ina-acknowledge?
Tama yun. Very, very well said, MM. And alam mo, ako, ang isa sa mga natanggap kong advice when I was really sad is, tandaan mo, hindi ikaw yan. Yan yung isa sa mga advice na natanggap ko. And maybe to some, it may sound weird, no? What does that mean? Pero ako, ang naramdaman ko nung binigay sa akin yon ng mom ko, nung in-advise niya sa akin yon, was that I was not a slave to my sadness. Hindi ako forever na nakalubog sa lungkot at kaya kong bumangon. Yun yung naging mensahe ng advice na yun para sa akin. And I credit that to my mom because she really provided, God used her so much during that time to give me the drive to get out of the sadness I was in. Given this, I know that there are also truths that we hold during times na sad tayo. And I want to hear from you, Jana and MM. Ano ba yung biblical truth na pinangahawakan mo kapag malungkot ka?
Number 1, God sovereign. Yan ang isa sa mga pinanghahawakan ko. Kasi kapag ma-happy tayo, ang dali-daling mag-claim din ng promises ni God. Na God is in control, God is everything, God holds your future. Pero when you're at your lowest point, or when you're going through something, or when you're in pain, struggling, dun matetest kung totoo pa ba yung pinaniniwalaan mo, hey God. So, when you believe that God is sovereign, and that He's there regardless of your situation, then yun yung pinanghahawakan ko na I will get through this. Kasi alam niya kung anong ginagawa niya. Yung may purpose kung bakit nangyayari sa akin to.
Right.
So, yun.
Gusto ko yan. Ikaw?
Sa akin, yung isa pong naging topic namin ng discipler ko nung last week, it's really about looking at the problem or looking at your trials in the way that God sees it. Kasi if you view your problems in the way na you want to, edi syempre yung mga problema mo sa buhay, yung sadness na meron ka sa puso mo, i-view mo siya as just sadness and ang ending is magwawallow ka doon. Pero if you look at it from a perspective ni God na this is just to test you, to try and see kung paano ka magre-respond, doon mo talaga malalaman na, ay, nga no. So maybe this phase of sadness is just God's way of trying to see how I will respond to this sadness. Because we know that God is kind and God is gracious.
Yes.
And what better way to know that truth about God than when going through challenges or trials.
Right. Alam nyo guys, sobrang thank you kasi yung mga sinabi nyo, yung sovereignty ni God at saka yung sinabi ni MM, no, that really encourages me. And dun sa mga listeners natin, no, guys, maybe kayo, meron kayong pinangahawakan na isang bagay na totoo na sinasabi sa Bible or isang bagay na totoo tungkol kay God na nakaka-encourage sa inyo kapag ka nalulungkot kayo. And we'd love to know kung ano yung bagay na yun. Dahil alam namin, no, na yung mga na pinagdadaanan natin, no, sa kabila ng mga hirap, sa kabila ng lungkot, sa kabila ng kadiliman, ika nga, at saka lalim nung pagkalungkot natin, nandyan pa rin si God, and yung mga truth na kino-communicate sa Bible is something really, really, really solid and something that we can stand on. And that's something that we value here sa Grow Deep podcast. We want to grow deeper in life, pero at the same time, We want to make sure that our convictions are grounded in something that's solid. And sabi sa Bible, yung truth ni Lord ang isang solid na bagay na para kang nagtatayo ng bahay sa isang solid na bato, no? Yan yung sinabi sa Bible. Ako naman, no, isa sa mga biblical truth na pinanghawakan ko pagka malungkot ako at hindi ko nakikita kung saan papunta yung kalungkutan ko is that my sadness is not useless or worthless, no? Minsan kasi, no, when you think about sadness, you feel like you shouldn't be in it. Parang bakit ba ako malungkot? Bakit ako? Parang ganun. Bakit ako?
Yeah.
Bakit hindi na lang siya? Siya yung nang
Lord.
iwan, di ba? Yung mga ganun.
Bakit ako?
Yung mga ganun. Bakit
naka-move on na siya? Ba't po hindi pa? Mga ganon.
ganyan.
Ba't siya saya niya ako nagdudusa pa?
Mga ganyan, hugot na hugot, no? And sometimes we think that way. Yung mga ganung question, it comes from maybe an idea na this is something I shouldn't be experiencing right now. I don't need it. And I can't see the point. Parang ganun yung yung perspective niyan eh. Pero you know what? Sabi sa Bible, your whatever trial you're going through right now, it's going to be useful for you and for other people. And I'm sure, no, if you've experienced sadness about something before, magagamit mo yun para mag-advise at saka mag-encourage din ng mga tao na may pagdadaanan na kalungkutan. So, tandaan mo to, no? If you're listening to us, I want to tell you, besides what Jana and MM said, na your sadness is not useless. It's not a dead end. It's not something that you will look back and say, walang kwenta talaga yon. God is working out something in your life, and your sadness is it's a beautiful story waiting to unfold. Ganyan yung gusto namin sabihin sa inyo dito sa podcast na to. And gaya ng sinabi ni Leng dun sa comment section natin, sabi niya, Romans 8:28 is what keeps her going down despite the sadness. And that's true. All things work together for the good of those who love the Lord. And that's very, very true. So guys, no, if you love God, if you believe in God, hold on to that. Hold on to that faith. Dahil hindi sayang yung mga pinagdadaanan natin sa buhay. Alright? So ang ganda ng usapan natin tonight. Ang saya-saya nakasama natin si Jana at saka si MM. Pero I'd like to hear lang siguro Jana and MM, ano ba yung mga words of encouragement na gusto nyong iwanan dun sa mga listeners natin tonight?
If you're feeling alone, you are not alone. And you are never alone because Jesus is just beside you. Remember that. Hold on to that. You can just talk to Him whenever you want. Actually, moment by moment, pwede mo siyang kausapin. Masaya ka, malungkot ka, nagagalit ka, may pinagdadaanan, nandyan siya para sa'yo. So, hindi ka mag-isa, kapatid.
Amen. Ganda niyan. Ikaw?
Para sa mga dumadaan sa sadness sa atin, makinig kayo sa December Ave, Ben and Ben, o kung saan pa man na gusto nyo. Let your sadness dwell in you. But please, don't let it define you.
Yes.
Wow, short but powerful yan, ha? Don't let your sadness define you. And totoo yan, no? Totoo yung sinabi nyo na we are really not alone in our sadness. And our sadness will not define us kasi ang dapat nagdi-define sa atin ay yung sinasabi ni Lord tungkol sa atin sa Bible. So, everyone, if you're listening to us, we really hope and pray that you were blessed with this episode. Happy kami na nag-join kayo sa amin. And if you want to be prayed for, kunyari meron kang pinagdadaanan ngayon at gusto mo na maipag-pray ka namin, huwag kang mag-hesitate na mag-PM dito sa amin sa Grow Deep Podcast Facebook page. And we'd love to pray for you. We'd love to minister to you. We'd love to just, let you know that there's someone out there, a podcast page out there who's willing to pray for you. Message nyo lang kami. And gusto namin sabihin sa inyo na next live episode natin ay hindi malayo dito sa topic natin ngayon dahil yung susunod natin na pag-uusapan ay yung sadness at saka depression. Kasama naman natin next episode natin si Miss Shaina Kuwa. Isa siyang counselor, isa siyang psychologist, at malalaman natin kung ano ba yung katotohanan behind sadness and depression.
Very
Papalawakin
timely.
natin yung alam natin tungkol dyan. So if you want to know more about sadness, if you want to hear more about sadness, you join us in our next episode, which is going to be on Monday next week. Huwag kayong mawawala. Monday next week, kasama natin si Miss Shaina Kua. Again, you're listening to the Grow Deep Podcast. If you want to listen to us more, you can go check out the Grow Deep Podcast on Spotify and Apple iTunes Podcast. Pwede nyo rin kaming sundan dito sa Facebook, of course, at saka sa Instagram, growdeep.podcast on Instagram. Again, we're happy that you really engaged with us. Maraming salamat sa lahat ng nagstay at nag-share ng thoughts nila. We appreciate you guys. Ako si Matthew, and kasama ko si
Lana.
At ako naman si MM.
See you again, guys, sa next episode namin. Bye-bye!
Bye!